I don't understand why we didn't agree on the fact that you were going to bring the drum in too. Uh, Here we go.
I thought it would be a good. Oh, sorry.
Thought that was even funny. Because the person I'm speaking to today is the man who composed the Spark Corey Castle theme song, Greg Massi.
Hello,
Dude, Retcon
Retcon.
Retcon Productions or Records. What? How does that go? What is
Sorry,
that?
Retcon Industries is what I
Retcon
settled
Industry.
on. It was originally
Oh,
Retcon Recordings, and then I was like, well, I do more than just music now. So I said, oh, I'll call it Industries. Makes it sound more
it
professional.
sounds so something. It sounds so fancy.
I mean, it's just my basement, really.
There's plenty of industries that start off in basements.
Or
And
garages. Yeah.
yeah, I mean that's what we are currently doing.
Yeah.
I mean, it didn't start in a basement, but kinda.
It's the same place.
So what I was thinking about doing, maybe I was gonna surprise you with this because of the 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 build up this week, and you talking about this preparation that you were doing for questions that you might answer a certain way if I ask you. I figured I'd start out just curveballing it and being like, you ask me questions because you're a fellow podcaster. Pretend like this is a podcast that you're hosting where I'm your guest.
Oh fuck. Um Well, actually no, actually that's good. I do actually have a question because I was thinking about this today. Um I was kind of just I wasn't sure how esoteric we would go about like different art forms and things like that because music's an art form, pro wrestling is an art form. And and I was kind of thinking to myself that um to talk about myself for a second before I ask you a question, is that since I've been making practicing an instrument is one thing, but since I've been making albums or recording for the last 20 years or so, uh I found that I obviously listen to music differently. Like the way I listen to a song now is way different than what 13-year-old Greg listened to it. Like I hear things and I'm always like picking things apart now. Like I still enjoy music, but like I'm always picking it apart. And I was thinking it's probably the same for pro wrestling where like, I'll watch just for example, like, I watched Double or Nothing or whatever. And like I might be able to say, "Oh, I can tell where, Ricky Starks fucked up on the top rope when he was like doing something and he slipped and he fell." Or something
Dude,
like that.
he don't smear Ricky Starks. He didn't fuck up at Double or Nothing. He did a good job.
No, he did. Well, no, I love Ricky Starks, but there
I
was
know, I know. You're just pulling an analogy out of thin air. I know,
actually, I
but
shouldn't have said Ricky Starks. I should have said Ray Phoenix because I feel
yeah,
like
he
Ray
does.
Phoenix
That's
doesn't.
not surprised by that guy fucking up.
Yeah, I love Ray Phoenix too, but I know, but like
He,
there are certain things like that I see, but I feel like I see a guy giving somebody a suplex, and like I'm probably looking at it like, cool, that guy's giving somebody a suplex. You are probably like, you're probably hyper focused on, okay, where are his feet? How's the feet working? Where's like how is not, I don't want to go into secrets
so
of wrestling you can't talk about, but
in a suplex you don't think about the footwork while the suplex is happening unless it completely sucks.
okay,
But backyarders do suplexes. It's just the footwork leading up into the suplex
okay,
that you'd watch and be like, oh, why are they so stampy? Like
yeah, okay, that
when people take too many steps, I keep an eye on that a lot. I
okay,
keep an eye. I'm gonna, but like, it's funny because I am absolutely not above saying that there are people who have been doing this way shorter time than I have and do it way better than me. I have
Mhm.
no problem saying that. Like I know that I'm good at what I do,
Mhm.
but like for instance MJF. I've never had a match that's as good as anything that guy does. Like I'm pretty certain of it, and it's not me bashing me, but it's me really praising him.
Yeah. Well,
And
he's just like you know, I don't know. It's hard to say, but like I feel like as a wrestling fan and not someone in I know a little bit. I'm not I'm not in the business as much as other people, but like there's I have always known there was something about him. Even before when he was going to come in and do a spot for Capital Wrestling when I was working there. Like I remember seeing his earliest promos and being like, "This is amazing for somebody who's like 20 years old,"
right,
and it's entertaining me. Whether or not his wrestling is good and sound and all the training stuff, whatever.
right,
But like I could tell that he knows something of what he's doing, and yeah, he's.
right.
I mean, he's
The
amazing.
the the promos and stop me if you don't know what I'm talking about. The promos remind me a little bit of Larry Sweeney,
I know who you're talking about. I don't know. I don't
Sweet and
know. I
Sarah.
don't have a. Yeah, I know who he is. I don't
Hmm.
have a. I've never done a deep dive on his stuff. But I've heard the name a lot in terms of
Okay.
like indie wrestling. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of that same like that throwback, that same that throwback with a little bit of that like real like gray fabe mixed
Hmm.
in.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Okay.
my word. You can use it. You can use
That's a
it. Go
good.
ahead.
I think that's a really good word. I've never heard it before, obviously, but like that like makes so much more sense to me than anything else. Like having never known what kayfabe meant until like maybe like I started listening to wrestling podcasts like 5 years ago or 6 years ago, and like now kind of. But I think that word makes more sense to me than kayfabe.
Yeah, because everything is so blurred.
Yeah,
There's the who you are, and then there's the perception of who you are, and then there's the version that's the middle of those two things. That's very fluid.
yeah,
And uh, I think kayfabe is what exists now. It's not kayfabe is dead. It's uh we're we're shooting ourselves into a work and we're working ourselves into a shoot,
it's
and we're digging ourselves up and down both paths.
well, it's an evolution, isn't it? Because it's just like the way wrestling was when I was first started watching was so different than when I watched in the mid 90s in college and then to where it is now in terms of like how social media. I mean, like there's, it is like it's like, I don't know. I mean, again, like you can kind of talk about this with any art form in any kind of way, the way that, the development of the internet has affected everything from books, paintings, I mean, music, pro wrestling, any kind of art form has had to change or evolve in some certain way to deal with the new methods in which people are either interacting with that art in
Mhm.
or whether it be from like music going streaming or books being digital or wrestling fans being trolls online and and
That's
like
that's that's
you
not
know
brand new. That's
it's not
not
brand
brand
new.
new.
Yeah,
Wh-
I mean dirt
wh-
sheets have
With
always been around, but like it's just
yeah,
more it's
and
I
like
feel.
message boards have always been around.
Yep.
Um, the funny thing was when I was a student at the CCW school, and I would check the CCW fans message boards and like get in on the inside jokes that the fans had, but like they had no idea who I was. And then it was like when it's time, like you're also at that point coming into the business, you're
Hmm.
not allowed at that point. This is 2001. Like you're not really allowed at that point to show that you're a mark. You can't really show that you know the things that the fans are talking about on the message boards. Like when when really it totally would have. it totally wound up working out for other people when it came to Twitter later on. And but I don't think it would have made any difference back then. But what the funny thing was, I was going to bring up my friend Ryan. My friend Ryan was like, "Oh man, I made a screen name. I beat you to it. I got it before anybody else could get it." And I posted, and I was like, "What screen name did you put on there?" And he's like, "I put CK Corey Castle." And I posted stuff. I'm like, "Oh, so people think I am posting stuff now." And then the locker room's going to come after me for being a mark, and it's going to be a whole to do and ordeal. And then I had the boys coming up to me at shows and at training, and they're like, "Oh, so you're really trying to put yourself over on the message board?" I'm like, I'm not, dude.
Oh Lord, that's amazing. See, and
But
that's all shit that musicians never have to go through.
and what I always said, and that's part of the, like, I think the part of the evolution of the business. Like nowadays, it's fine to be a mark. It's
Hmm.
cool to know what the fans know, and that's fine. That's completely normal. And to kind of like build relationships with the fans through like having sort of some kind of inside knowledge of what they have their fingers on the pulse of. But like the the era I came up in, you had to stuff that down. You had to stuff down trying to be a mark. But the thing is, like, the people who are loving wrestling are loving the same thing we're loving, and
Hmm.
the rest of the world's not understanding us because they're not loving the same thing we're loving. So it's like, why can't we get on the same page on this one? But
Well,
the attitude. I'm sorry, I didn't interrupt
oh
you.
no,
What
no,
were
no,
you
no.
saying?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
So the attitude I always had for a very long time was like the fact that like musicians don't start a band and then go, "I don't wear band shirts anymore. I don't like bands. Don't talk to me about music unless it's about my music." So,
That that is totally usually has been not my experience. Like
mhm,
for the most part, mostly it's. I mean, you can say it or whatever, but like most any musician in a band, no matter how, and I've met from all walks of life, from like super serious composer types to pop punk bands or whatever, just like all around the gamut. Everybody is a fan of something, and there are musicians. And the thing about musicians is, um, in my experience, we don't well, I mean, I like talking about myself because I've been craving that validation for years, man.
that's
I'm not even.
that's
I'm
why
not gonna
I
lie to you.
that's why I started a podcast, so
Yeah,
I could put a veil over the fact that I want to talk to you about what's interesting about you.
yeah, but
No,
like
that was me speaking in your voice, not me. No,
you know,
that's not how I feel. I want to know what you really truly feel and
right.
stuff. No,
It's. I
not
just
me.
find.
I was playing the character version of you being
Oh,
the
okay.
jerk. Mhm.
Well, I was just gonna say, like, I've just found that like with musicians I meet and the musicians who I have like a really good friendship with, obviously like my friends who I went to high school with who are now like really well regarded musicians, but like when we hang out, it's just the same old fucking stupid dick jokes, you know what I mean? Like my friend is a super serious musician who writes really amazing music, but that's not our relationship. Our relationship isn't talking about like this, we will have serious music talks, but it's not the
Mhm.
basis of our friendship. And yeah, like I remember there was this one band that I played with, this band called Castle, and who I love. They're like super nice guys. And honestly, I remember at the time they were on a specific like metal record label, and the guitar player in the band that I was playing with wanted to talk to him because he had gotten an email from that record label, and the guitar player in this band, Castle, didn't really seem all that interested in talking to him about like the ins and outs of like being on that label. However,
Is that part of that being too cool to sell out kind of thing?
no,
Is
no,
that
I
this
don't.
is
No, it's more just like we just don't want to deal with that. He's been on tour for a while. He doesn't want to talk about that shit. But I got through to him because, and because we talked about like, because he was about my age. So I was like, oh, so when you were in high school, were you making demos on like cassette recorders? And he's like, yeah, totally. And I'm like, all right. And so there's like this bonding about like how we encountered how we did things in that age. And,
Mhm.
and then because they were on tour, I was like, oh, well, have you ever gone to this restaurant in this town? I was like, oh, yeah, yeah. And it's just like, it's like stupid road stories. And like, and so, yeah, there is that. It's not as prevalent as like, I think in wrestling, it probably is. Cause I mean, with the, car rides and everything like that. But yeah, it was definitely a thing where like a lot of musicians, it depends on the situation. If they're trying to promote something, they want to talk about themselves. If they're coming off stage or on stage or about to go on stage, they don't want to talk about themselves. They want to just
Mhm.
like bullshit. Usually, it's been my experience. And if you try, like, it's weird. It's an interesting. I've thought a lot about this, about comparing the lives of indie wrestlers versus indie musicians. It's a weird
Well, what's
weird
funny
thing for
was
me.
what I meant to point out earlier, but I didn't get to it, was when you were like these art forms, and then you said wrestling, and what you said
Books,
wrestling and something else, but
music,
then you you
books.
did you didn't say music, and
Oh.
you didn't say comedy, but
Sorry,
like I think
comedy's included in that too. Sorry, I didn't mean to
like
be
because
exclusionary. I think
no
comedy
no no
is
just
totally included in that.
because it like that's your it's the instrument, you know what I mean, the audience is the instrument.
Yeah.
And man, I I bombed hard the other night. It was just like just letting these people stare at me and eating my own ass out here.
See, and that's an experience usually musicians never have to. I think the idea of bombing as a musician is totally different. Like I've bombed a lot on stage. In if you look at the
Mm,
if you just kind of like look at it from like having a shitty time on stage or technical failures or all these crappy things that can happen to you. But
mm.
like generally speaking, I've never had a crowd boo me or
Well,
heckle me.
yeah, I wouldn't say that I wouldn't say that I was heckled. That's why I bombed. What the bomb is just no one doing anything.
Okay, oh sorry,
It's
or no one
they're
reacting.
just
Yeah.
they're
And
just
that's
mm.
something musicians go through too.
or or like you hit a punchline and someone goes, "Oh, oh." Something I'm really not a fan of is hitting a punchline and someone going, "Boom." Like don't try to think that you're assisting me by doing that. You're not
Oh,
lending to the overall experience of everyone here in the room.
man. So this isn't necessarily a bomb story, but it's just like this is the funniest thing. One of the funnier things that ever happened to me on stage was that my old band that I was in for a few years, KO Dot, we were playing in Rhode Island, and KO Dot was very much termed like a lot of people consider it as like avant-garde, like serious compositional music, not songs, not pop songs, not hooks, not that any of that, like serious music. And I had some friends from college
So
come,
like so very serious
very serious,
avant-garde.
very
Like
serious.
the British guards, like the serious
Yeah,
avant-garde.
no smiling, no smiling. I couldn't smile on stage. No, but no, but it was funny because like we played these songs that were like 10 minutes long, 15 minutes long, and they had these and a lot of times we would have like heavy parts and loud parts, and we'd have these quiet, calm parts where like where you're not supposed to clap, or it's just supposed to be this experience. And we get to one of these quiet parts, and a friend of mine from college who has no clue about these kinds of things. I mean, his favorite band is AC/DC, right? And he's just used to like yelling at me, going,
When there's quiet going,
"Oh yeah,
woo, fill in
yeah."
that quiet.
Well, he didn't even do that. Like, that'd be funny, but no, he decided to go like shout my last name as loud as possible. So we get to this quiet part, and I just hear this voice go, Massey! And I was just like, and I gave him this look of death. I'm like, wrong, wrong, wrong reaction. You were you were so wrong for doing that at this exact moment. I love you, but no. But
Yeah,
yeah,
it
I
is.
should have included I should have included comedy in that too. Yeah, I think they're all connected. Like any kind
Yeah.
of artistic thing, and I don't like people who try to make divisions between them. Like there's like any one form is more legitimate than the other. Like just because, like you said, comedy and wrestling, like music can exist without an audience. You know what I mean? Like music and
Mhm.
writing, like you can. It's not because unless you're playing live, it's not like you're there for every time someone listens to your music and has like some sort of reaction to your music. You hope
Mhm.
that somebody is doing that. Um, and I guess it's true if someone's watching comedy or watching wrestling, but a lot of what goes into comedy and wrestling is how you react to the live audience in the moment. And with music, it's not usually like that. It's more unless you're doing like a fish thing or a like an improv thing. You're more just kind of like playing your songs and it's like not saying the audience doesn't matter, like the energy of the audience can really help or hinder, but I feel like but the audience is more important in certain art forms. I don't know if you'd agree.
Do you like the band Fish?
Oh hell no.
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 People who do. People who do. I love you. I really do. But what
I
is the
respect them.
deal? What is the deal?
Yeah, I mean I
Do-
respect them, but yeah, but I
Well,
came
like
up at a weird time though.
my sister, my sister and her boyfriend are like big fish heads. They love fish. They're like, oh, there's a live concert of theirs on right now. We got to watch it. And then like I was over their place, and I was in New York, and this is a small apartment, and they were like, oh, we just got to turn it on, and I was just trapped there with it, and I was like, I love you guys. I love you so much. I just I just don't get it. I just don't get. but but they told me that and I'm not gonna get too much into talking about their lives, but uh, they they won't go to another they won't go to another show that's at the Susquehanna Bank Center or I guess what's it called now? It used to be the Tweeter Center in Camden.
Okay.
They won't go to another live event there. Won't go to another concert there because at a Fish concert they were on mushrooms in the lawn and they watched a guy die and they are traumatized by that. That's understandably very
Yeah, yeah.
traumatizing.
I would probably have the same reaction, to be
I
honest
think
with you.
I think being on mushrooms anywhere and watching someone die means never go there again to that spot. Like that's totally fine ski.
Yeah,
I,
yeah,
I'm cool. I mean, as much as I like fish, I
yeah,
don't get to see them at Susquehanna Bank Center anymore. Ah,
yeah.
darn
Wow, that is a crazy traumatic thing that I'm really glad has never happened to me,
it.
and I
Yeah,
really feel
yeah.
bad that that happened to her. I'll be
Oh
honest with
yeah,
you.
that's
My
terrible.
empathy is kicking up hardcore right now.
Because I really wanted her to go with me to this concert in August, and it's there, so she's not going.
Nope.
Nope.
So yeah, that was really the only question.
Uh,
I guess that led to a couple different things, but I that was the only real question I kind of was thinking about. In case you, I did
what was
think
the
about the
question?
Oh, I don't even remember now.
The question was, how do I watch wrestling?
Yeah, yeah.
And
How do you watch, right? Because I
I don't.
honestly, I wanted to hear you talk about feet work because I hear people talk about footwork all the time when I listen
Mhm,
to like it's without knowing the insides of wrestling, insider stuff about wrestling,
mhm.
or the limited knowledge I have, I guess.
Right.
Like I've heard people talk about footwork, and I just like think about it from the perspective of if I'm watching wrestling, I would not know the first thing about what I'm looking for like when their feet should hit certain way. That's why I could never be a wrestler. I'm not good on my feet anyway. But like, and lack of athletic ability. But
Oh, dude, I'm such an awkward, unathletic weirdo, uncoordinated. I don't know how I figured out it was just being in it for so long. It just
yeah,
kind
I'm
of like
sure. Yeah,
it's just like you're forced to. You're forced to figure it out. You're forced to, like, also, I think the way I've looked at it in the past has been like, okay, if I was somebody who wanted to pay money to see somebody wrestle, I would want to watch them wrestle like the way I see people wrestle on TV. Like the way I do anything is if I were to come see me do any of the things that I'm doing, would I want to pay money
Yeah.
to come see that? And I think I think the answer is consistently yes now. It took a long time to get there.
I always enjoyed watching you.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, I like you were always one of the shining spots for me at Capital Wrestling shows. Like just from the fact that you're always a beacon of positive energy and also you were entertaining to me like in the ring. So like yeah, I always enjoyed watching you work.
Thanks, dude. I think I think that I've had now a few people say this to me, and I've had it said to me so much that it kind of hurts my feelings having this said to me. But people say I'm too nice to make it. I'm too nice to make it in anything. Like I would rather give somebody the shirt off my back than like make a living doing what I love.
Oh, same.
And that's that's somehow I that somehow makes me undeserving, and it's a strange balance. It's a strange balance because like, I, are you telling me I don't deserve what I want? Like that's and it feels like I feel like when that's been said to me, I've like gotten so upset, but like secret down low upset, and I've never brought it up. Never say it to whoever would say that to me. I would just like do the fade away from them.
Yeah.
Like
It's it's
like
weird. I've been called too nice before too. Um and yeah, and I think it's because I think the prevailing opinion, and I could be wrong about this, but in any kind of endeavor, not even just artistic or anything, it's there are two sides. There's like the actual thing you do, which could be an insurance agent if you own your own insurance business. You know what I mean, like whatever. But then there's also how do you do business, and like and I think there's this kind of idea that you could, I'm not going to get into a discussion about like the pros and cons of capitalism, but there is this kind of like this kind of idea that you need to be like success, like you have to figure out what it is to mean your success. And a lot of people, if they're thinking about it in terms of financial success or getting your uh, I'll just bring it back to music, getting your band's music on certain things, getting on certain shows, things like that. And I've seen people in the music industry do some really questionable tactics to
right.
get to that level. And
Uh-huh.
then, but I think when you're trying to make your way in the world with what you do, you have to really like think to yourself, like, what am I going to do? Like why, like what would it benefit me to be like that? Or I mean, do I want this so bad that I'm willing to go against what is my natural instinct in a certain situation, like where I could say, and not necessarily screw somebody over, but like do something that would doesn't make might make me feel like shit, but will advance my career, or, and I'm not saying being nice immediately like makes it so you can't have a career, but it's I think people think about that as a weakness. I think people consider that a weakness because there's this idea that if you're going to be doing business, and I'm not using that in like the wrestling term of doing business or anything. I'm
Mhm.
just saying like if you're doing business and whatever it is you do, there's this kind of feeling that you have to be shrewd and you have to be able to make hard choices and live with them. And I think some people just would rather be like, you know what, I want to do it my way, and it may take longer or it may lead to a different thing, but I would rather not be a million selling recording artist and at least feel good about the interactions I've had with people
Right.
than like be like, oh cool, I live in this really cool mansion, but like I kind of stepped on a few people to get here. You know what I mean? Like I
Right.
think
Right.
there's,
Right.
and it's again, it's not just music, it's not just wrestling, but just anything. Like and I think there is that kind of mindset that you have to be hard. You have to be tough, and being nice is a weakness. And I'm like, that's bullshit. Being nice is not a weakness.
Dude, I want to tell you this story, Greg. So I was driving home from work the one day, and I saw this guy on the side of the road walking with a gas can. And I pulled over, and I was like, "Come on, dude, get in." The dude get in with the gas can, and he's like, "Oh man, it's so cool you picked me up, dude. Karma's totally gonna have your back, bro. Like you got such good energy coming your way. Why'd you pick me up?" And I was like, "Cause I knew if I'm walking on the side of the road with a gas can, I'd want someone to stop and pick me up." And he's like, "Yeah, you got such good energy, bro. Such good things coming your way." And then I was like, that's your car right there?" And he's like, "Yeah, get out." And as he's going to get out, he goes, "This is what us white bros do for each other." Or like,
Oh
"This
my
is what us
god.
white bro." And I was like, "Wait, were you a Nazi and talking about karma and energy?" Oh shit, bro. Oh shit. Am I too nice? Am I too nice? Did I just lend a ride to a Nazi?
You did. You did.
Mm. And he had gas. He had gas. He was stinking out my car.
Oh man. Yeah.
So there's my questionable moral decision right there. I gave a ride to a Nazi once.
I dare say that does not reflect poorly on you. To me, that doesn't that does not reflect poorly on you. That because
No.
there was no way you would have known unless he had like a swastika hanging, like a tattoo, or you had like, or like gave you a hand signal that you didn't understand or something like that. Like,
Do you remember a few years back? I don't really remember reading too much about it, but I remember hearing a lot about it, and I was in circles that talked a lot about this kind of stuff. But that guy Schlack,
mhm.
Schlack, he got like pulled off of some show because pictures surfaced of him like being a tattoo artist for some Nazis. Like, and he like tattooed swastikas on some Nazis. And
Mhm.
like people were trying to get him canceled off of shows, trying to get him not booked and stuff. And it was like, I said, sometimes when you're younger, you make mistakes, and sometimes they swastik with you.
I was looking at the clock, being like, how long until the first pun, and god damn it, you suckered me in. I fucking hate you so much, so goddamn much.
you know, I, I your I hate you is the one I miss the most.
Oh,
I don't hear it enough in my life in a way where it's like there's joy in your eyes,
oh yeah,
and
yeah.
I dig it a lot. Most of the time, anyone brings up hate, and I go, please, just stop.
Because it's not
Uh,
hate.
yeah,
It's not that I hate you because you're a terrible person. I
it's
hate you because you got me.
good
You know.
because I wish I wrote that.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, exactly. Um, well, so you love puns. I love puns.
hmm
I really hate bad puns though, and yours generally are not. So that's why
no,
I kind of.
mine flirt with the line. I stay on the line of the
Well, the ones when I tell you I
bad to
hate
good.
you are good. That's what I'm
Okay,
saying. Like
good,
when I
good,
tell you
good,
I
good.
hate you, it's because that pun is really good. So the best pun I ever saw was a friend of mine. Now, do you know the band? Do you know Bauhaus at all, or Sisters of Mercy? Or I forget who wrote the song. So one of those two gothy bands wrote a song called "Bela Lugosi's Dead."
Mm-hmm,
That's a famous song they did. I think
mm-hmm.
it was Bauhaus. I'm pretty sure. Of course, like someone who listens to your podcast who's a fan of those bands is going to be like, "He's wrong. What an asshole."
I
But
don't have people don't listen to this show.
anyway, my friend, my friend who also is like a big fan of puns
Uh-huh.
he was over in Europe on a tour, and he saw someone had a bakery and it was called Bella Lugosi's Bread.
Mm.
And he sent that to me, and that ruined my whole day. Because like that, see, now, like, if you don't know that joke or you don't know that song, it may not register the same way, and I get that, but for me, that's the kind of thing I'm working with. So when you uh, I forget the one you told me. God, I forgot what it was.
Bro, this is the thing. I really want to get an inventory. If I've ever said a pun to you that stuck with you, that you
Pimple.
thought about,
Pimple.
I don't know what that is. So I'm gonna ask you now to
I
share that with me.
I can't even remember the full of it, so I'm gonna tell it totally poorly. But
Mhm.
you were saying something about what is a little pimp called, and you're like, a pimple. It was something like that. It was like a little pimp, and it was a pimple. And I just like, and you told it to me. I was at the bar, and I was having a shitty day anyway. I think, if I remember correctly, and that just like turned everything around for me. Like
Oh,
it turned
cool.
everything around. So yeah.
I think I think those walks from the show to the after bar were probably the moments when I fell in love with your laugh and your I hate yous.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah. So no,
no that
my when I tell you I hate you, I've never actually told somebody I hate them for actually hating them.
right.
Never.
I said it to my dad once because he yelled at me, but I didn't mean it.
Yeah, you didn't mean, well, I mean, yeah, that's, you're just being rebellious. It's fine.
Yeah,
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 we've all been through there.
yeah. So uh, uh, some girl said to me, like, she brought up a joke that I made. See, I want to, like I said, I want to get inventory. I want to get other people to say, like, if I said something, because sometimes I throw them out there so often and I don't remember what it is. But this girl was like, "Oh, the last time we were here, you made this joke, and it really stuck with me." And I was like, "Oh, what was that?" And she's like, "See that store over there with like all the uniforms for the nurses and stuff? You made a joke about walking in there, walking around the whole store, and then coming on the outside and being like, nah, I don't want no scrubs." I was like, I don't remember that. Uh,
Jesus.
so so anybody who has stories of me telling you jokes or coming up with a pun or something,
Oh Lord.
like sometimes I don't write them down or think of them later, but sometimes I do, and then I go to do them on stage, and people just continue to stare at me.
Yeah, well, I love it, and I appreciate it, and I wish I was as quick. I wish I was quicker with puns and just humor in general. The only humor I'm quick with is like quoting spoof movies from the late '80s and early '90s, or The Simpsons, or
So like scary movie
Scary
did
Movie was after my time. So
oh scary movie was after your time.
I mean,
Spooky. I'm
after
trying to
my
think.
time, like, I'm talking about, like, because I grew up with Airplane, Hot Shots Part Deux, uh,
Yeah.
Naked Guns 1, 2.5, and 33 and a third. Like,
Mhm.
that was my, Saturday Night Live, 90s Saturday Night Live, In Living Color. That was my formative years, was all that stuff. So that was,
Dude, I loved Saturday Night Live in the '90s.
oh, I know. I heard you talk about it before.
With the gaping head wound man or whatever. What was that
Yeah.
guy's name?
Massive Head Wound Harry.
Massive wound head. And the dog was eating the thing off of his head, and like the thing was like coming off, and he
Yeah,
was like,
yeah. Yeah, Dana Carvey was trying to keep it on at the same time.
it cracks me up when I think about it.
Unfrozen Caveman Lawyer.
Yeah, dude. You know what I think about all the time, and it cracks me up, is the they did a spoof off those like Folgers crystals commercial. They were like, oh, these unsuspecting, and then like, oh, what if I were to tell you that you haven't been drinking this fancy coffee this whole time? You've been drinking Folgers crystals, and then it was Chris Farley, and he's like, what, and he's like flipping out. He's
Oh my
throwing
god.
chairs and stuff. It's so funny. Like
Well, those,
I think
yeah.
he used to do that on with the Groundlings also. I think that's like an older sketch that he recycled.
I mean, it's possible. I wish I knew his Groundling stuff. I could say for sure, but I do remember that SNL commercials are always like their
The
parody
the
commercials
the
are
the
always the
double
best.
the double toilets.
The-
The,
yeah.
I used to have "Oops, I crapped my pants" shirt from those commercials for the adult diapers.
Or Super Happy Fun Ball was my favorite. Do not taunt Super Happy Fun Ball. If Super Happy Fun Ball starts to glow red, drop it and leave immediately.
Me and my brother were Hans and Franz for Halloween once when we were kids,
Oh
and
wow.
the thing was we couldn't go, like one of us couldn't go ahead of the other one because we were wearing the same thing. So if somebody goes ahead, and then someone's like, "Oh, I already gave you candy. Get out of here, you jerk, you little brat," trying to double dip on the candy, and like, "No, that was my brother. That was my brother. Look at that other kid in the sweatsuit."
Actually, this brings up a good point. Not on the subject of Saturday Night Live, but as a homeowner who gives out candy on Halloween, I don't. Do you give out candy in your neighborhood?
Yeah,
Okay. I,
yeah.
I never know. I never know what people's living situations are or whatever.
Well, it's not candy. I
You got
well,
toothpaste?
I no, I actually sit out front with my mom at her house,
Oh, that's
and
awesome. Okay.
she gives out like like tasty cakes and like little Debbie's and stuff and
Oh god
oatmeal
damn, I
cream
wish.
pies and little pumpkins and
Why didn't your
all
mom live
those.
in my neighborhood? I love
Well,
tasty
because then
cakes.
she then she wouldn't be my mom. She'd be
Yes.
your mom.
But I mean, like, well, so what I was trying to say is like, is I actually like I applaud if I see a kid come by. I've had I've seen kids who've come by in 3 different costumes to get candy from us, and
Mhm,
I don't get pissed at it. I'm just like,
mhm.
"You know what's going on. You're way smarter than I was when I was doing this crap." So,
Co-
like, I
costumes are
applaud the
meant to
effort.
costumes are meant to fool folks.
Yeah, I
Like
applaud
it's
the
the
effort, like,
illusion.
I really do, and, like, if kids, I'm yeah, I never understood like the kind of like this is kind of a weird tangent, but like yeah, like I never understood like weird rules people put around like you can only have two or you can only blah blah blah. Like I get if you're trying to make sure there's enough candy for the kids in your neighborhood, but like I'm just like kids, please take this fucking candy because otherwise I'm just gonna be eating it for the next like 2 months and gain a bunch of weight and feel sorry for myself. So please take as many as you want. All right. Like I don't want to deal with this anymore. This is not a problem I want to deal with.
So like the I remember like all the you remember like being a kid and then like adults being like, say trick or treat, say thank you, and it's like, um okay. Like it's like that was so annoying. Like I can't imagine myself being an adult who is that version of annoying
Yeah.
to a kid that adults were to me. Like, oh, you gotta do a trick. It's like, just you bought the candy already. Just hand
Yeah.
me some of it.
Yeah. It's like, what am I, a dog? It's like I feel bad when I have to give my dog treats at night and I'm like, come on, sit, sit. And it's like, yeah, like yeah, what do you yeah, I make no rules with when I give out candy. I mean, my wife is a little bit she doesn't do as many rules, but she'll say like, "Oh, take two or whatever." We never make the kids say trick or treat. We all know what they're here for. We all know what this is. This
Oh,
isn't, this isn't, we all know what's going
you know,
on.
not interrogating kids. When you walked out of the house today, you said you were going what? Trick or treating, and you expect to just walk up to my house?
Yeah. You fucking little
People have,
bastard. No,
people have these weird soapboxes that they get on.
I know exactly. I don't like it. I never wanted to approach my adult life in that way because like whatever, you know, kid if a kid, they're kids, man. They just want candy. I I remember what that was like.
Yeah, yeah, and you didn't have money. You thought like you could buy your own candy. You were a kid. You had no money. You didn't have a
Yeah.
job.
Yeah, like that yeah, that candy haul that I got on Halloween was gonna have to last me for at least a week.
Yeah, that was my job. It was my job that day.
Yeah.
Most days I don't have a job. On Halloween, I have a job to go get all the candy.
Hmm.
I'm paid in candy.
Yeah.
I get
Yeah.
I
This
get
is my job, is entertaining these weird adults with my really cool costume.
it pays 13 candies an hour.
Yeah.
So, you've done a lot of podcasts, right?
Yes.
Have you been
Mhm.
guests on lots of podcasts?
No.
No.
No, I've been
You've
a
been
guest on a few.
on a few.
Yeah.
What question have you not been asked that you'd wished you had been asked?
Hmm. That's a really good question. Because yeah, I don't know. I don't know. That's a good question. And I know you've asked that before in a previous episode, so I should have been prepared for such an eventuality, but I did not prepare for such an eventuality. Um, yeah, I don't know, because like I guess like I never think about it like that. I never think about, there's never anything I'm really burning to talk about on.
Is there anything that you sweat drips down your back and you pray people don't ask you about it? Like, if there's any topics where you're like, all right, I could get myself in trouble if I wind up digging too deep into this topic or that topic.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there could be things like that. I guess I've never been asked something that's kind of crossed that line. I mean, I'm also really open. Like, I will seriously, if you know me for, if you just meet me, like if I get along good enough with you, I'll probably start telling you about my mental issues, like within like a month of knowing me. I'll be like, hey, this has been a really shitty week. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
I'm pretty. I don't, because I don't really feel ashamed about a lot of different. I mean, obviously, I've got regrets and shame about certain things in my life, like we all do. But I don't
Mhm.
necessarily. I'm just happy to talk to people, and so yeah, like I will gladly talk about anything, really. I mean, there's certain things I may not go into super detail on, just because of the people involved, but like I will talk about anything, really. Kind of an open book.
So we talk about regrets.
Hmm.
Give me one.
uh Probably one of the biggest regrets I feel is that, so when I went to college, I went to go major in music, and originally my goal, what I wanted to do, was go to Berklee College of Music because, well, because. But my parents were of the mindset where they're like, okay, well, we really want you to be able to do a double major because we want you to have something you can fall back on in case music doesn't work out. And they're not wrong. And I just kind of feel like, I think at that point in my life, I was way too much. I mean, I'm still kind of a people pleaser in certain aspects, but I think I was the last child. By the time I was gotten through everything, my parents had gone through a lot with my two sisters and my brother. So I was just like, I kind of developed this kind of like, well, I don't want to get in trouble. I don't, I was very much like, I didn't want to get in trouble. I was very, very scared about getting into trouble. And so I don't know if I necessarily stood up for myself as much as I should have. And it's not like a fault of my parents or a fault of me, because I mean, the point is my dad worked his ass off to make sure that I could have a college education. So like, and that was the other thing too, is like I knew he had a lot going into this, and so I didn't want him to think that his investment would be wasted.
Mhm.
But I kind of feel that I should have either pushed harder on going to an actual music school, or been more knowledgeable about what I was looking for in a music program, because the music program that I went into was not exactly what I thought it was going to be. And while I had some cool experiences in college, I do feel like I could have made a better choice and I've got friends. Obviously, I mean, I would never have met Marcus Dowling if I didn't go to Providence College. But part of me kind of wishes that I had kind of done the whole college thing a little differently, because I think I was a little too shy about things, and I wasn't and I didn't really assert what I needed. And I think when you go to college, there's very much this idea that you're kind of learning about what you want to do. If you, and I'm not saying you have to go to college, but like if college is what you want to do, you're specifically going to learn about something you want to learn about to move you
Okay.
to your
Thank goodness. I
your
thought you said I thought you were gonna say I had to go, and I was like,
no,
oh man,
I don't believe that.
I already did school. I'm
No, no.
too old now. I'm too old now. I don't
I don't
want to go.
believe that.
You can't make me.
So I think my one, and it's not. It doesn't even just extend to just that. I think my full regret is really just that I did not assert myself in terms of really thinking about what I wanted to do after college. And I think there was things I could have done differently there that would have led me to a different path. Whether or not it would have been better, that's you can't live in the past. So you have to be
Well,
like, okay.
do you think that you having that regret
Mhm.
lends to you making better decisions now?
Um,
And if you had done that, then you wouldn't have the same decision making that you have now.
right. No, no, you're right. That's why it's like I think I don't think it's bad to have regrets and to think about these things. I think where I get into trouble with my brain is where you start to kind of fantasize about, like, okay, that's the point where everything went wrong. You know what I mean? Like, if there's something about your life that you're not happy about, you immediately say, "Well, this thing I did 20 years ago, that's where everything went wrong." And you
Mhm.
start to give these things more importance than they need. And because you should be looking at it like, "Okay, well, I didn't make that decision. So I made these decisions, and I maybe my path has been different, but what have I learned? Who's come into my life because I'm here? If I had moved to New York instead of moving to Boston, how would that have changed my life? You know what I mean? Like, you know, eh, it could be better. We don't know, but it also could be
Do,
worse. You never know. Like,
do,
it's
do you
it's
ever think about the like romanticizing decisions that should have happened, like that you should have made? Like,
oh yeah,
what if that sucked? Like
yeah,
that's a whole other thing that you got to think about. Like, oh, I was in this relationship and it was perfect, and it would have been my dream wedding, and it would have been, oh, and then it didn't work out. It's
yeah.
like, yeah, it didn't work out because it sucked. It probably was going to wind up sucking at some point. Like, or oh, I screwed it up. I'm like,
Well, and
well, like,
it,
then beat yourself up for more and more over something that
so
you might not have even liked in the first place.
and see, and that's one of the things that's kind of interesting about social media is that probably more so, you know, starting with folks from like, my generation who kind of came into the internet when it first started really hitting in the mid 90s.
Your generation.
My generation, whoever
Uh-huh.
we are, I don't know.
Uh,
Are we Y? Are we Z? We're not Z. I don't know. Like,
oh,
we're
I
between
thought
X and the millennials. I don't know. I don't know. I
well,
don't.
my generation is Limp Bizkit, and your generation is the other band that sang that song.
Actually, my generation is the Scorpions, because that's the version I heard first. That's the
Right? Yeah.
Scorpions cover. Not the Who, not the Who, but the Scorpions version of it. No, but or was it the Scorpions? I forget. But it was
I don't
some
know.
compilation I got it. But no, but one thing that's interesting is when you bring up like especially like romantic stuff.
Mhm.
Um, or you can look at musicians you could have been in a band with or two,
Right.
or people you could have wrestled. I don't know. There's all sorts of things you could equate it to. You can actually go back and see how those people have turned. Like, you look at the girl that you could have gotten with, and you say, maybe this would have been really good. And then you look at her and she's married with 5 kids and living a life that you would probably not want to be living. Not saying there's anything wrong with that. I'm just saying like if that's not your if not, like I think about that too. It's like, you think about like in the moment you're like, this is someone I'm romantically interested in, but like you're not really thinking about like the long term like because because you haven't gotten to that point with them. You're just thinking, oh, this is a really attractive person that I would like to be engaged with romantically or physically or whatever. And you never think about like, well, is are they going to want kids? Do I want kids? Are like if I try to uh get my music up and running, are they going to put the kibosh on it? Are they going to, you know what I mean? Like you don't think about that at the time. So when you see the people now in hindsight, you can look at how they live their life and you can say like, maybe it's for the best that I didn't end up with them, you
There's a
know,
there's a thing I say pretty often,
unless
and
they're
and
rich.
a thing a thing that Alyssa brings up a lot now. To the joke I actually used to do it on stage. I said, "Well, what would this magazine be that that only featured very practical, very functional brasiers? What would that magazine be called? Supports Illustrated." And then I said, like, what we're doing is we're supporting each other. So when it comes to finding a person who's going to support you and hold you up and get warmth from your shine, as opposed to like trying to dim in it so that theirs will shine brighter.
Yeah.
I I I maybe I'm too nice. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm too
Yeah,
nice. I don't know.
that's the theme of this interview is we're both too nice, which is why we get along and everybody else thinks we're weirdos. But yeah, like I mean, I don't know. Like I think about that and I think it's really easy to kind of fall into those um because I mean, and I think with I'm going to kind of bring it back to being in a kind of creative field. Um, I think the thing with like any kind of art form, again, it's like your break. Like being in the right place at the right time. It's like, you know, um, like what if like you were on an indie show, say like 10 years ago, and not saying whether or not this happened or not, but say you're on an indie show and there was some really big name like talent scout or a promoter for a bigger company who's there and they kind of hung out just for like maybe say like the first half of the card, not the second half, but say like you were on that card and you like really petitioned to go later in the card because you thought your match deserved to be on later in the card, and then this person missed you, like, and it's like, and if you found out later, you'd be like, well, why did I petition so hard to be the headliner here when I could have actually been wrestling in front of this person who might have been able to further my career. And like that's the kind of decision where you would think about it 20 years later and be like, maybe I would be doing something else, like maybe things would have been, you know what I mean, like, and 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 it's and if you have an overactive imagination like mine, you can like build an entire world around that. You can build an entire story around these maybes. That's why I really
So,
loved the What If comics when I was growing up.
oh,
Those are like
did you watch
the
those on Disney?
oh, I did watch those, yeah, but
I,
but
I watched a few of them.
but yeah,
Uh,
like those are like one of my favorite comics when I was a kid because it's like that's the kind of it's exploring that kind of idea.
yeah,
But I think it's
the
easy to put
alternate timeline
alternate
could be
timelines.
anything. Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, well,
The alternate universes, that was my gimmick
I was
for
gonna
a
say,
while.
like, I was gonna say, you're
Yeah,
you're multiversal. Like
yeah, that
you
was.
know what's going on there.
Yeah, that
But
was my gimmick for a while.
yeah,
It's a weird thing, and I kind of get at it like as I'm aging, as I'm getting older. I'm the old guy in every locker room. Uh,
really?
yeah, dude.
Oh,
Everywhere I'm the old guy everywhere I'm at.
you're a kid to me, man. So don't worry about it.
Cool. but like I think I I rebelled so hard against tr- hearing people would say a thing you've probably heard in locker rooms before when people go, "Oh, easy night." I used to not like that when people would say "Oh, this is my hobby." When
Mm-hmm.
people would talk about wrestling like it was their hobby, that bothered me
Mm-hmm.
for a really long time. But like now, I I I I know how to differentiate between easy work and an easy night. So the like I thought that lazy people said easy night.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't lazy people, it was just smarter work.
Okay. Yeah.
And um and and now looking at wrestling and the fact that just like this podcast, it's like I realize I'm doing it and I could be screaming into a void. It's funny. Somebody taught me today, and talking about the way you treat people. They were saying in Germany they would have this expression where I can't say it in German because I can't speak German, but it was something like the way you speak to people. Think of it as you speaking it into a cave because what you're speaking is echoing back,
Mm-hmm.
and you're going to get back exactly what you give.
Mm-hmm.
So that I thought that was a real cool highlight of my work day today to hear that person tell me that whole interesting little fact about a German saying that I can't remember what it was. But thanks for that gift, sir.
I may not be able to speak it,
Uh,
but I'm going to live my whole life according to it. You've changed
I
my
will.
whole perspective.
I romanticize the memory of how cool I felt the moment you said that to me.
And I'm going to tell everybody.
I'm gonna feel so cultured when I go, oh, there's this German. It's called. Well, you know what? I'll dub that part in later. Let me just move my lips now. It's about the echoes of the caves when you speak to people.
You know what I mean. You
Yeah,
get it.
you get it. You know what I mean. So I want to make sure I say to you while we're on the record, considering this will be what uh, is our first recording. This is
Yeah.
our first time we're recording a podcast together. Uh, how insanely pumped I am and excited that I am that you were able to not only give me this time and pay me the effort the currency of your effort through being here and hanging with me, but then also like taking time to kind of like listen to the show. And I always bring that up and how important I think the currency of effort and attention are. And especially because to me, uh, I think maybe I'm starting to unbox some real things when it comes to attention and growing up being told that I was inside of a deficit of attention and that I had a disorder, like something was really wrong with me and that was really hardwired in me.
Hmm.
So that might be what makes it mean even more to the fact that, and I've said this a bunch of times on here. It's like you can't just turn a knob and have this come on. Like you have to take extra steps to do it. And then you have to take steps to drown out anything else that isn't this if you're really going to pay it the attention that you're giving it.
Hmm.
So the that all that part means so much to me. So being on this side of that and being on the show mode is it's super important to me. I want to say I look forward to our continued collaboration and our continued support illustrated with each other.
Yeah.
Our
Is it wait? Is it the Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue? That's what I want to know.
the swim supports illustrated bras edition.
Oh yeah, I forgot it was for about bras. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So anyway, all right. So I'm gonna be in some sort of skimpy outfit. All right, that's all I
Uh,
need to
uh,
know.
yes. What will I underwear? So I just want to say thank you, man,
Oh, thank
and
you.
and I love you. I love that I've gotten the opportunity to know you, and I appreciate you hanging with me, and I appreciate you collaborating with me, and I appreciate you having fun with me. And
Thanks,
you're
man.
my friend, and I look forward to us continuing to be friends.
Yeah, I love you too, man. I mean, it was you were definitely, like I said, you were one of the people who I always looked forward to seeing at indie wrestling shows, because because like I was a stranger in a strange land at those shows. Like I didn't try to be, like I wasn't in the business necessarily, and so like I tried to be respectful because if there's anything I learned about the wrestling business is it should be about respect, and then that's and so I try, hearing people talk about that in interviews. I was like, okay, I got to be sure to shake everybody's hand, make sure I'm like, all that stuff, you know, uh,
Was
but
was there any questions about that kind of stuff that you wanted to ask a wrestler that that I might be
man,
able to help you with?
I, I'm not around it really anymore, so I'm good for now. So,
Okay.
but I will say that my one, and again, this isn't necessarily a regret, but I would have loved to have done like I would have loved to have been in a car. Like I would have loved to have done one of those car trips. You hear about with like the 4 or 5 guys in the car, and then like or the sitting under the learning tree stuff. Like,
Yeah. Yeah,
and
rebooking the
yeah,
territory in the
rebooking
car. Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
and I think it's a thing where like I was always under the impression that like uh, it's not forbidden knowledge, but like the people
Oh
who
yeah, it was
the
protected.
people
It was
it's
protected,
protected.
highly protected
Right,
for a
like,
very long
and if
time.
someone's gonna give you that knowledge, they wanna be sure they can trust you with that knowledge,
Mhm.
and, like, I never thought that as someone who wasn't necessarily a a worker, taking bumps, although I did always wanna take a bump, just one. Just one just to feel what it's like, um, but
I think it's like you you take one and then you just never do it again.
yeah, exactly,
Uh,
I think
but
I
I think it's like maybe you do that when you're 20 years old.
Yeah, no, exactly. At 43, if I took a bump right now, I would probably end up in a hospital with I would break something. I would, like I'm, not that I'm super fragile, but like, yeah, if I tried to bounce off a rope, I would probably, I that would not be good for me.
I think
But
when I started, man, I think my idea was like I used to go to ECW shows when I was a kid, and I would go to like other indie wrestling shows when I was a kid, and I would be like, I just want to get in the ring and I want to hit the ropes one time, and I want to take one round of bumps. I want to do the flip bump, the handstand. I want to run the ropes, like I want to do the front bump, and maybe that's it. And I got in and I hit the ropes the first time. I was 14 and I've never stepped out of it.
yeah,
Like
well,
I've
that's awesome.
never stepped away from it. I only thought I wanted to do it that once. Only thought I wanted to do it that once. Look what's gonna happen to you. Look what's gonna happen to you if you step. You're gonna
Yeah.
be 23 years from now. You're gonna be like, I only wanted to do one.
Just once, man. I just wanted. Oh, yeah. And now, and now you're probably looking back. And then I went through a table, and then I went, through
Yeah.
and
What?
then I landed on the concrete.
Oh my god. Started getting busted open the hard way sometimes. It's just
God damn it!
never a good thing.
No, yeah,
So
yeah. And let me also say too. I just want just briefly. I just want to say, kind of coming back to like sort of the stuff we were talking about a little bit, like talking about like the way the business has changed or whatever. I mean, for any business, but like I ever since the '90s, ever since the Attitude Era, I have hated smart smart mark culture. I have avoided it like the plague. Like I hated the way the way the internet has created smart mark culture, and
internet
it's
one, internet version one. Uh, there's going to be an upgraded internet coming out soon.
I
It's
just
going to be a brand new internet.
I
And
just
then we're going to be able to blame the internets.
yeah, I just wanted to get that one gripe off my head. It's just like it's just like I just like because I have friends who like send me like rumor mill shit, and I'm just like, what's the point of me thinking about like why are they booking this guy this one way? Like you don't know. Like you
Hmm.
could say like I would book it differently. Okay, that's cool.
Hmm.
But like like there's times when there's storylines in wrestling that I'm like, why did they do that? That was stupid. And then like 8 months later, I'm like, well, they couldn't have gotten to this point if they hadn't done that. And so like, shame on me for not like having better, thinking. Okay, well maybe this is going to play out in a different way than what I'm expecting. And yeah, so
Hey,
that
man,
kind of shit annoys me.
uh, I'm gonna ask you to be careful with that shame that you're throwing around.
Sorry, sorry. All right, sorry. You know what I mean.
Uh, so,
But anyway, sorry.
so, so,
I don't know why I'm ending on that, but like it's just something I forgot to mention earlier that I wanted to. I wanted to
so,
throw some
I,
shade on some people.
just a couple more things, and then I'll send you off into the sunset with a hot dog and a handshake. Uh,
Oh,
the uh, the segment that I like to do now, most times at the episode as we start wrapping it up, I like to do a segment that I like to call audio time travel.
okay.
Right. So you're married, right? Do you and your wife have any kids?
No,
No.
just a dog.
Okay. So in 20 years, in 2042,
Mm-hmm.
this recording gets stumbled across by your wife.
Mm-hmm.
This 2022 version of you wants to speak directly to the 2042 version of your wife
Okay.
to talk about what this time is like and what you hope for her in the future and
Oh,
what can inspire her or anybody else listening who cares about you, who wants to just hear what you think 20 years in the future. What is the message you're giving them?
um, shit. God damn, making me think. Um,
Don't make me think.
yeah, like, well, I guess. I mean, if it's 20 years in the future, uh, hey, I hope we saved up enough money for retirement. Is one. Um, two, I guess like i- based on the way things have been the last couple of years, in what my wife and I both, like I guess my thing would be like
You're
if
not
it.
talking to me.
I know. Oh, no, sorry.
You're
No,
not
no.
talking. You're talking to her. So you
Okay.
can't say my wife.
Hopefully, okay.
You can't talk about your wife to your wife.
Okay.
Say,
Well, hopefully, honey. Hopefully, we have both uh found the professional fulfillment we we've been working towards. That is, like without getting into all the details, like that is definitely something that I think in 20 years we would want to we should, you know, that's something I would hope for. This is me being honest.
uh, so hypothetically, let's say I I've gifted you this podcast, and this was your first episode, your pilot episode of your new podcast, Evolving with Greg Massi.
Okay.
In a well, actually, let's pause for before the wrap up. Inside of that podcasting interview, is there any things that you want to say or ask me specifically targeted at this guy?
Oh
And I
boy.
pointed at myself for the audio
Yeah,
listeners.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, you didn't point at a picture of someone else, like, Dan
No, it
over
was
here.
yeah, this
That guy.
this
Um,
this cartoon version of me on the wall here.
um, hmm. I guess, well, if we're going off the theme of evolution, have you come to any great realization about your own personal evolution over the last 20 years or so?
Uh, Almost exclusively over the last 20 years.
Yeah.
Almost that's all I do. I don't know. I mean, I
Or
think
I guess because this is something I think about a lot too for myself, just like how
uh-huh.
I look at how I've evolved and how I've grown and do you, so it's a really weird thing. I don't know how to put it right into the best terms, but just how
Dude,
what
I'm gonna tell you real quick. This weekend, I was on the microphone. I was on the microphone at a wrestling show, and I was saying all this stuff, and then I got in the back, and I was talking to my best friend who's at Sound. He was at Gorilla, and he was like, man, that was good, and I was like, thanks, man. I was trying to say this one thing, but I couldn't. I just couldn't. And he was like, articulate. And I'm like, oh man, thank you for helping me find the word. And I was like, I'm sorry. I mean, thanks for helping me find the. And he's like, word. It was
helping me
just
find the dude,
so
yeah, but I guess it's
articulate.
just like okay, articulate. Well, I guess the articulation is if for somebody who I feel in you really thinks about things in a very the very deep way, deep thoughts with Jack Handy. Would have you come to any great truth about yourself or about life with all of this?
Are you meaning like since I started doing this show?
I just mean in general. I just mean I just mean in general how old are you now? You
38.
38. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Like, when you look back at 14-year-old Corey getting in the ring for the first time or whatever. I mean, I don't know. I guess how do you feel? I don't know. Is it weird? I don't know.
I feel like that version of me had no idea, had no idea how to be present, had no idea like what I even wanted from wrestling. I just was like, hey, I'm gonna try this. I'm gonna figure it all out because I was, bro, my eyesight's very bad. My eyesight's terrible. So when I was a kid, I couldn't wear my glasses and I didn't have contacts yet. So I would be in the ring like basically like I'm blind out there. So like when I'd hear an audience, I just knew that they were there, and I couldn't tell how many there were, and it was it, it was like it was a lot of unsure. It was a lot of unsure inside. It was weird because it was like I felt like I had committed. I had already, and I think on top of it, like I and I'm gonna I'm gonna say this in a way that like it's not me crapping on my friends, but it was like me and my friends got in this together and they didn't stick with it, and I was like I'm gonna stick with it, and I'm gonna show my friends. I'm gonna show my friends that I'm gonna take like what what I think when we got into it, everyone was like they're gonna be they're gonna be the star, the breakout stars of their friends group, and they always pointed to my other two friends and not me,
hmm
and I'm the only one still doing it. And that I think that was something that was important to me as a kid, as like I'm gonna stick with this because it's always been my dream, and it's like I'm not pursuing living my dream. I'm actively living my dream, and then I think that kind of uh, grew me into somebody who I'd want to be when I was a kid. Like if and I say it a lot. If the 14-year-old me saw what the 38-year-old me was now, like it would be I don't it's hard to even think about. Like
Yeah.
if you were visited by your now self at 14, like if that happened, I I would probably faint.
Yeah.
Like and like without even knowing all the struggles and the hardship of it, but it's like oh like I'm still doing the shit that lights my soul on fire. You know what? I'm still doing the shit that serves me, and hopefully hopefully along the way inspiring some other folks to continue to do that with them with their own selves, or if not to continue doing it, to start doing it.
Yeah. Well, and I think, hearing you mention that, and I know it's kind of a weird question to begin with anyway, but like, I honestly think you struck on something really important there. Is like you mentioned about uh not being or wishing or not wishing, but like being more present. And I think that's something that I think too about my life now. The way I've kind of been living is like I'm definitely trying to live in more of a mindful, present way, whereas I think I didn't before, and I didn't appreciate things as much as I could, or really like you know like again you learn from them, but wouldn't it be great if like at 14 you could learn how to be present? You know what I mean? Like to really understand what that means. And like most people, most kids won't, but but to understand that and like think about like I don't know. I think that's something that
I
I
think
agree with you there.
the ability to be present comes with experience.
Yes.
It comes with realizing that you were at a time not very present.
Yep.
I think I say constantly, and I don't know, stop me if you heard me say it, but I think that there is a good amount of folks who just observe life happening and
Yes.
just react to the world how it acts. And everything they do is because this happened. This happened, so I did this. This
Yep.
happened, so I did this. This happened, so I did this. And not enough folks are deliberate creators in what their existence is. And I say that coming from somebody who I know I was I was I was I was really capable of maintaining a victim in just letting existence happen.
Yep. Same here. Same here. Yeah, very much so. And yeah, no, that's why. I figured that a rough question might at least lead to a pretty philosophical answer. So that was kind of my goal. I just couldn't
So
articulate.
so words.
Words are important.
Uh, so to wrap it up in a
Yes.
very Jerry Springer's final thought type of way, how would you wrap up and the most important takeaways from this evening's conversation, this moment here in time that we shared, this time capsule? What could inspire anyone listening to be a better version of themselves tomorrow? And and
I
give any last final thoughts like Jerry Springer.
um
Wrap it up in a pretty bow.
okay. Well, first of all, the baby isn't mine. Um that's important if you're talking Jerry Springer. Or no, that's Maury Povich. I'm sorry. I can't keep it straight. But
They both had babies.
yeah,
They both had
that's
the
true.
paternity test things.
But I honestly think I think if anybody were to listen to this conversation, what they should take away from it is that, well, first of all, it's okay to be nice. Let's just start there. Don't be or and I shouldn't even say like it's okay to be nice. I like it's important to feel comfortable in who you are, and if somebody tells you that something about you is not, like, oh, you're doing this the wrong way or whatever, like to kind of like not let it. Well, I sound really kind of silly trying to explain it, um, but really trying to, like just, it's like someone telling you that at this point in your life you're too nice isn't going to necessarily see you in 10 years. And what's that going to look like in 10 years when you've lived this life according to the principles that you feel are important, and they shamed you for it? And not who's better off or who's winning at life, but like can you wake up in the morning 10 years from now and feel like, okay, uh I lived my life the way, by the way I want to live, or like I wanted to be as good a person as I could be, and that was more important to me than cheap uh, cheap success.
I mean, I think the more and more I look at certain things, when I and this is just piggybacking off of what you were saying. I think the more and more I look at opportunities that I didn't get, that maybe were right there for me to grab, and I just didn't have I didn't have the presence, I didn't have the I didn't have the awareness to see them and grab them. Maybe I wasn't ready. Even if I had, I wasn't ready
Hmm.
for those opportunities yet. And that's all the same stuff still don't have. I'm like, well, maybe I'm just not ready.
Yeah.
And I just got to continue to figure out how to be ready for all the things that I want.
Yes. It's a long
And
game. It's a long game.
it is a long, long game. And part of that is finding out who I want to be.
Yeah.
And you can be that too. You can be that too.
Yeah.
I do you have any impressions? Can you do any impersonations or impressions?
Uh, let's see. I can do because I listened. So I'm not a sports fan. I'll throw that out there. I like my sports predetermined, um, and with funny promos. I but I listen to Boston sports radio every day to and from work, and I'm not originally from Massachusetts, so my impression is Boston sports fan who has been drinking since 4 o'clock in the morning and calling into the morning radio show to tell his sports. See if I can do it. Yeah, dude. I mean, come on. Why are they putting him why are they putting the I don't even know who the Patriots players are. You know, why can't they get it on the same page since Tom Brady was here? I mean, Tom Brady, but let's face it, he's a Benedict Arnold, that kid. He left for the fucking the greener pastures, and now
He went to Florida, cuz.
he went to Florida, kid. And they don't have Dunkin' Donuts down there, do they?
So the reason I usually I ask the guests about impressions is because I like to see if they'll do their impression, but with saying the catchphrase of the show, which the way I always close out is "Be fun, have safe, keep evolving." As the Boston sports fan,
Okay. So I'm just keeping it straight in my head. Be fun, have safe, keep evolving.
thank you. Anybody who's listening to this, if it's your first time checking us out, check out all the other episodes. Make sure you hit subscribe and follow so that you catch new episodes every single Monday when they drop on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And be kinder to yourself. Love who you used to be as much as you love who you currently are. Be fun, have safe, keep evolving.